JD here, Limitless, and as you can see, we are back on F1 2021 as always, and we are here for a PC lobby that I did quite a while ago, and this was around Hungary. So as always, we're going to be showcasing the entire race, because I always feel this is something that's benefited me the most when I was trying to learn how to drive on the Formula 1 games, is be able to see people's full races, see exactly what they're doing in order to try and win these races. So I really hope this is somewhat of a benefit to those people. So you can see this is the setup I'm running here, quite similar to the one I was running in my F1 esports qualification. But if you are part of my YouTube membership, my Discord, you will have access to the complete full setup that I use there, and pretty much most of my tracks when I update them when I do league races or do a new PB online. So we're starting on the medium strategy here in the Mercedes, equal cars against some very competitive drivers on PC, which I said many times before, seems to be from over the course of the whole field. It seems the competitiveness is definitely a little bit higher.
And the good thing about PC is that my rev
platform
counter works on this wheel. It doesn't work on Xbox.
And yeah, things up my rev counter working on my Fanatec. The input delay is next to nothing. You can see on the webcam to here, I don't have to add any filters. There is no delay with the wheel, so it feels increasingly satisfying to play on PC. But I will be doing a complete comparison between all the platforms quite soon, which is a video I wanted to do for a long time. So you can see we're just navigating through this carnage here, and as we come into here, the Haas and the Alpha come together, pirouetting very nicely, and we just slip through the middle of them. So sometimes you just got to know when to be aggressive, when not to be, and again, just avoiding the carnage going through it here. So you don't have to be forceful on the first lap, even when it comes to a league race, and especially when it comes to open lobby. Sometimes you just got to be patient. And this guy
spin that up.
is just an absolute merry-go-round here. So we're already up into P9 without really being forceful or anything at all. Just taking our time, which I think a lot of people don't realise that's what they need to do quite a lot of the time here. So on the medium tyres, these tyres won't be particularly quick at the start of the race, but I'm hoping the softs at the end will try and get me back into play of exactly where I need to be. So coming through into here, you'll see on this lap, this is an example of where you do need to be a little bit more aggressive, I believe. So coming through here, he goes very, very wide. I see it as an opportunity to do an absolute switchback. Coming through here, using this momentum, using the speed, and we got going through here. We're going to be quite forceful now, going around the outside, leaving some room on the inside, and getting that move done. A very, very nice move. And again, that's just an example of when you need to take the opportunities, when you need to fully send it. Because like when you're in league racing, a lot of the time people jump the gun, especially on like the first lap of the race. They will just fully send it. Whereas sometimes it's good to overtake people at a certain point just so you can put a car between yourself and them. It all depends of the situation you're in. For that one there, if I didn't overtake him there, then I wouldn't have got within the DRS zone of this guy up ahead if the DRS was enabled. But you get what I mean. So using these lobbies to practice for potential situations like that in the future is something that's really benefited me, as Daniel 06F1 sets the fastest lap of the race. He is a YouTube member of mine as well. And like I said many times, if you want a priority invite to these lobbies, which I will be doing many more next week, then becoming a YouTube member gets you guaranteed, as long as you post your Steam ID or gamer tag on the day when I do the open lobby. So now we're into P5 here, coming up behind Dado Gonzalez, I think, if I can read that correctly. And our pace is looking very strong at the moment. But you can see the leaders have actually got a fairly decent gap, as Daniel is 5 seconds up the road. But he is on the soft tyre at this stage. So coming through into here, I'm just going to try and set myself up nicely for this DRS zone, because the mediums actually come into effect quite nicely around this track. The softs actually do burn off quite quickly. Normally after 5 laps, that's when they actually start to deteriorate a little bit. So set myself up really nicely here, and then on the exit,
Oh god, that's what happens when you're not watching properly.
and things can change in absolute heartbeat. If that was like in a league race, that would have been my front wing off. So again, just serving a reminder that you need to keep it focused, keep it nice and smooth. And these are the things that help. Making mistakes here, rather than when it actually matters, is what really, really helps me. This is why I've improved so much with these lobbies.
It's going to make it a bit harder this race.
So now I've got a little bit more work to do. So getting up behind him again, it's no real overtaking zone until really the DRS straight. And you can see we've actually lost almost 2 seconds because of what we did there. You can see the guy in second is 6.7 seconds ago. I think Daniel was actually taking the lead, and that's another example
That makes it a bit easier.
of why this track is very, very unforgiving. If you hit the wrong part of the curb, it is definitely going to be punishing you. So now we've got a bit of work to do, because Daniel is definitely a very, very fast driver in himself. So 7.2 seconds. Got some time to find, but as I said, after 5 laps, this is where the crossover point really does happen between both of these tyres. And from here to the end of the race, we drive very, very well with the setup that we're using. And Hungary, I've said it many times, I feel is a little bit underrated as a track, and a track that people initially think that's not very satisfying to drive. But I find once people start driving it, their opinion definitely changes a lot more, because tyre temperatures are a big issue around here. Same with tyre wear, overtaking, ERS management, high speed, low speed. I think it's got all the characteristics of a very, very good track. So you can see now we've actually started to gain a little bit of time on the leaders here. So going 2 tenths up than we were, and now we have really started to get into a good rhythm in this race. And you can see that gap is coming down ever so slowly. So I predict that they will be pitting quite shortly for the medium tyres, just so that they can get a little bit of an undercut on me and put as much distance as they possibly can, because they can't really afford to be really anything less than 5 seconds. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty difficult task for them once they go on the soft tyres, because they'll be on much older mediums and I'll be on much newer tyres, and with them being the softs as well. So you can see that gap is really actually starting to come down quite quickly now, as I believe someone has pitted. So the Ferrari has pitted, so he has responded to this gun across the line. We set the fastest lap of the race on medium tyres on lap 6, and I'm pretty sure that's actually going to be triggering Daniel to come into the pits at the end of this lap. So the gap was about 6 seconds as we started this lap, and you can see here now no sign of any lockups or anything at all. We're driving very, very smoothly. Setup is definitely working very well, and you can see the gap is still about 5.9 seconds, but it's through this middle sector is where the difference in the tyres will start to be made. So you can see the gap is now gone down to 5.8. Let's see how much more it goes down. Going through this middle sector, making sure we hit this track very, very nicely, and coming towards the end of this lap here, this is where the time will be making up as well. So the gap is now 5.6 seconds, and surely that he will be coming into the pits at the end of this lap. So he hasn't lost.
It's quite good at the moment.
As much time as we're saying our pace is quite good, which I think it is, especially for being on the medium tyres. And yes, he does go into the pit. So we're just going to stay on board, showing you just how consistent that we're currently lapping. I'm really talking about how to do track. We've got another medium runner P5, so we'll keep an eye on that gap. 10.4 between myself and him as well. So going into this turn 1,
okay.
all the soft runners are pretty much pitted now, apart from TBE. He's decided to stay out. We're coming through to here. We'll be missing this initial apex, but carrying enough speed through into the corner, completely flat out through this right. Coming up to the top of the hill, the black box on the top right. As you pass that, that is your turning in point. Aiming for that marshal post. Once you go to there, that's when you want to be going through into this corner. This one, just before the curb starts, that's your braking point. Hit the first part of the curbs for these corners. Don't want to be mounting it on the second level. stay as far left as you can, and then get a nice line for this right-hander. Completely far out for this left as the curve starts. That is your braking and turning in point. And you can see we're on for a purple middle sector at the moment. Just before the curve starts, try and hook your car on the inside as much as you can. As you go past the barrier above the track, that's where you'll be braking and turning in. Aim for the marshal post again, the black box. Try and do a late apex here. Get nice and early on the throttle, unwind. And what lap is this going to be? It's going to be a 18.0. The gap is 10.6. So the guy behind in the mediums definitely had a good pace in himself as well. But we're going to keep an eye on the gap between myself and Daniel, because that gap is about 12.8 seconds. So typically a pit stop around here is about 18 to 19 seconds, which I think is another quite important thing. If you know what the pit delta is, then you know how aggressive you can really be towards the end of the race. So we're just going to keep an eye on that gap for now. The medium runner has stayed out, so that's actually going to play into my favour, because he might actually start to hold up Daniel, who is in P3 at the moment. So we're just going to try and keep it as consistent as we can. And often these are the laps that are actually most difficult when you're doing a competitive race. Is that when you have no one in front of you, no real reference or anything at all, and just trying to hit the same spot every single time. So that's exactly what we're trying to do here. And that's why I've said...
So I'll try and go as long as possible without losing too much time. Daniel is catching me a bit.
So yeah, we're keeping an eye on that gap as much as possible. And...
on fresh mediums is catching me. 7/10 at that.
And yeah, the gap is about 11 seconds to the car behind. Daniel closing quickly.
The fresh soft should be very good at the end.
And yeah, with my experience around here, I know that the fresh softs are going to be good, as Daniel does do the fastest lap of a 17.4, so not lapping that much quicker, about half a second to 7/10 quicker at this stage. But now he's actually going to come across the Ferrari behind me, who we are lapping a little bit faster than. So I know that's actually going to stop him in his tracks ever so slightly. So we're just going to keep on going, because really you can get the maximum speed out the softs for about 5 laps. So that's why it's really important, again, especially before league racing, that you know your strategy, you know how long the tyres can go on for, because you can really play it into your advantage and know how hard you have to push before you actually start thinking about pitting. But this also leads me on to say, as we're about to have another team radio.
Oh, he's been held up slightly with the guy behind, so we'll keep going.
So yeah, he's actually losing time now a little bit to me. So I'm just going to keep on going even more, as the pace is still very good. As we're going to come across the line, what's this going to be? It's going to be an 18.1. So being very consistent at the moment, lapping within a 10th or 2 of what we're doing every single lap. So we're just going to keep on pushing us as long as we possibly can. But this also leads me to say thank you so much to everyone who has booked a one-to-one coaching session over on CoachLimitless.com. The discount code is Christmas21 if you are not a YouTube member. And just to let people know that I will be unlocking some more slots in January after Christmas. So you can book up until the 24th at the moment. But after that, then I'll be unlocking more slots for January and for the rest of 2022. So I really hope people have enjoyed that so far. People have definitely seemed to enjoyed it, and so have I. So I just want to say massive thank you to those people. And any questions you have, then just message me through the website. We can see the gap is now 11.8 seconds, so it's coming down a little bit more, but not too quickly that I know it's going to be a bit of a problem in the final part. So we're going to just continue once again. And as I said, the delta is about 18 to 19 seconds, or 17 to 19 seconds. So the gap is probably going to be around about 7 to 8 seconds as we are looking to box at the end of this lap. So I know we're probably going to be gaining a lot of time initially very quickly. And then towards the last lap, that's when it might start to balance out ever so slightly. But we do have... the difference between the tyres is greater than it was in the first stint. So our tyres should be a little bit more OP for a bit longer than they were in this first stint. So the gap is still about 11.8 seconds. Let's see what it is coming through this middle and last sector. So he should be gaining a little bit of time here. So we're coming up behind a ghost car, which is very, very annoying because they often get in the way considering how fast the AI are. So they're very, very fast through the corners. So we have to drive through this ghost, which is not ideal, but he didn't really hinder us too badly. The gap is now about 11.7 seconds. You can see our tyre wear was approaching the 30, so not too bad, but definitely a fresher tyre, so you're going to be getting a bit more grip. So we're probably going to be boxing towards the end of this lap. So you can see we're setting ourselves up nicely, going into the pits, almost losing the car. It's quite important to practice the pit entries as well, because you can gain quite a lot of time, and we managed to do that.
Right, yeah, I'll do a little bit off this race, yep.
And yeah, we managed to do that pretty nicely. So let's see what this gap is. I said it was about 17 to 19 seconds. Pit delta, about 18 seconds around here. So he's already gone past. We do have about 5 laps of this race to go. And coming out of the pits, what is the gap going to be? As this is an actual person who's come past us as Marcy McBall. So we need to get past him as soon as we can. We don't want to be held up, but he does quite a good defense. So he goes in quite deep, and we're just going to use the speed of these soft tyres to go around the outside. And the gap is 7.4 seconds. So quite a sizable gap. But you will see the power of these soft tyres of just how quickly we will be gaining. So currently here, the gap's about 7.2 seconds. Let's see what it is as we cross the start-finish line. And let's now unleash the power of these soft tyres. So current here has just got so much more grip already. See, it's actually a purple sector, and the gap is now down to 6.6 seconds. So gaining about 8/10 already on this lap alone. And it should have been well over a second. So we'll get a real true perspective once we do the next complete lap. So coming through here, starting lap 13 of this race, doing purple down sector at 6 seconds. So 1.4 seconds we gained over the course of that last lap. Now coming through into here, overtaking another ghost car. So using the overtake here, we're going to have to drive through this ghost, which is very, very annoying. But you can see here,
I really wish they would just disappear when people disconnect, turn invisible.
It is very, very annoying. I wish they would just be invisible until someone maybe joins back into a lobby, because the acceleration of the AI is just very, very fast. So we're not improving that much in the first sector, because I think the AI didn't particularly help us. And going through this again at the wrong point, they are very, very frustrating. But the gap has come down 6/10 already on this lap. It's going through the twisty section. This is where we'll be gaining the most amount of time. So it's looking like it's going to be at just over a second a lap, which is cutting it quite close, if I'm being honest here. So we need to be pushing a little bit more than this, just to make sure we are going to get within the DRS zone of him on this last lap. Coming through into this last corner, try and carry as much speed as we can. And you can see we haven't really used that much ERS here. So we're going to push quite a bit now. We do the fastest lap of the race. So we gained 1.5 seconds that lap. Let's see what we can do now. And we're going to be catching another ghost car at a place that we don't really want to be catching them. So current through here, are we going to be driving through them? That one wasn't quite as annoying as it was the previous time. And we're going to be pushing now with the ERS here. So tyres will be down a little bit in grip, but you can see we're over 2/10 up. So much, much better through here. Keeping it tighter this time. Really don't want to touch the curb on that inside, because it's pretty much an auto spin curb. As the gap is now gone down almost 1 second already on this lap. So we're making good progress. Still have about just over 3 laps of this race still to go here. So really trying to keep it within the limits of this. Still about 1/10 up, but the softs, they do go off quite quickly around this track. If you had a lap fresher softs than someone, then I would say that's actually quite a significant advantage. So we're still going to try and improve our lap time here. So using ERS on the exit of this last corner, what's this going to be? It's going to be a 2.5 now, losing a little bit of grip in the tyres in the latter part of the lap, and the gap is now 2.7 seconds. So we almost caught him by 2 seconds on that lap, but we still need to get a little bit of a move on, because the longer this goes on, the more that his tyres will actually come into favour, as it did for me in the first stint of this race here. So really want to be getting the DRS on as soon as we can, as NL Falcon decides to beat my fastest lap, which will be very, very hard for me to respond to, because now my tyres have already done, I think they're on their 3rd lap here, so it's going to be very, very difficult to respond to that. But you can see we're keeping a lot of the ERS back, just so that when we get up behind him, we have a lot of power to use. So this is typically the way I drive. I try and drive as efficiently as I can, because a lot of people might be tempted to blast the ERS here, but if you make a mistake or the tyres then equal out at the end and he has more ERS to use, ERS is very, very powerful on this game. So the way I drive here is the way I would drive in a competitive race. So using a little bit to get that momentum, but then we are going to be turning it off nice and early. It's coming into here now. We're going to try and get within the DRS zone on this lap here. So coming towards the end of this lap, this is where I really want to get within the DRS point here. So I'm going to push as hard as I can to get within that 1 second. So we've got another 4 attempts to find going through into this middle sector, as Jeff just never ever stops talking. I think I will eventually mute him at some point. Coming through into here now. The gap is starting to stabilize a little bit now. As I said, the longer the race goes on, the more closer we get to this crossover period. So coming through to here, the gap is about 1.1 seconds. So we should be able to get within the DRS zone as we're coming across another ghost car. Really hope he gets off the race now. So driving through, but that's not really going to hinder us too badly. So the gap is 1.1 seconds. So it really needed to get within the DRS zone now using this rotation. The detection point is right about here. Have we done it? I think we might have just been able to, but we are about 1 second behind. And it was clear that the tyres were starting to stabilize here. So good job that we actually managed to save quite a lot of the ERS, and it's going to have to be a last lap overtake in this case. So I was really hoping that he didn't have that much ERS on board, because the mediums are actually really starting to get into on. As we get into the dirty air, you can see my tyres were already started to go off. So that's why I went quite deep into the race, because after 5 laps the softs really do start to fall apart around here. So that's why it's so crucial to have a really, really good medium pace when you're doing races such as this. So you can see we're about 17 seconds clear of everyone right now. So us two are completely clear of the field. I'm only really going to be having one overtaking opportunity, 1 or 2, maybe into turn 1 and on the exit of it there as well. But you can see his pace is definitely coming into his own. So we need to get a little bit more closer than this. But we do have 75% ERS. So that's why I always encourage people to try and be as efficient as they possibly can. Let's come off the exit. You can see he's getting really good traction. Actually better traction than we got. We're on 33% wear now. Using the ERS here and decided to turn off to make him go very, very defensive. Let him have this corner. And now we're going to try and go for the switchback using our battery power here. We've got the benefit of the DRS on the exit. Going side by side. We're just going to try and go around the outside here. A little bit of elbows out. Squeezing into this inside. Use the grip on the inside and use the remaining battery power that we have. And we've managed to take the lead of this race. But our tyres are, I would say at this point, are coming towards pretty equal, because Daniel is a fast driver himself. So as long as we don't get a penalty, we would have absolutely timed this strategy to perfection. So we did everything we did. If we went a little bit too long, then I don't think we would have caught him in time, potentially. Or if we went a lap earlier, then his tyres might have been in even better shape towards the end of this race. So we pitted at exactly the right time, which is why it's so important to know what your strategy is going around the track. So coming through here, we haven't broken out of this DRS, so this pace is still looking pretty good. And as we come off the exit of this last corner, we have done the last to first.
GG Daniel, nice race, man.
And we have timed that very, very nicely. So once again, I really hope you found it useful and entertaining. So hopefully you've taken something from that. Thank you so much for support on the channel. Make sure you join my YouTube membership if you want an invite, a priority invite to races such as this, and look to book one-to-one coaching at coachlimitless.com. So thank you so much, and I'll catch you very, very soon. Peace.